Hello, everyone, and welcome to Garden Gossip, the home and garden show, with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Garden Gossip Show. We love gossip. And, we're Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Park store and publishers of different Big Blend magazines. The new one coming up, our new magazine is going to be Garden Gossip Home and Garden Magazine. We're excited about it because so many people are gardening now. We're happy to see and hear that. And as you know, as we travel the country, we pet sit through trusted house sitters, and we get to take care of people's gardens and see them around the country. So we do get a lot of gossip, but for some really good gossip on how to get started growing your own food in your backyard, we're very excited to welcome CaliKim on the show. She is based out of Southern California. Her and her husband run this amazing website it's a multimedia place. You need to go. It's CaliKim, so C-A-L-I, CaliKimGardenandHome.com. If you've seen her on YouTube, she's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers on there following her as she teaches everyone how to grow food and flowers in your backyard using raised beds, which is so much easier for your soil, and you can control it better, less pests. But, sometimes a bunny may run in there. Who knows? We'll talk about that. She is the author of Organic Gardening for Everyone out through Cool Springs Press, and her newest book is out now. It is called The First Time Gardener Raised Bed Gardening, also through Cool Springs Press. But again, it's CaliKimGardenandHome.com. So go get it. She just really makes it easy. And her website has great products to get you started.
And the book is beautiful. The book is, I love the book.
Oh, yeah.
The photos are so colorful, and I want to go play in the garden now.
I want to go eat. And if you follow her on Instagram and YouTube, you'll see all her nasturtiums. She rolls around in the nasturtiums. She got in there in the flower bed. Cool. So welcome, CaliKim. How are you? We'll just sit and brag about you for half an hour.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, Nancy and Lisa, for having me. And I'm so glad that you get to travel around the country and see people's beautiful gardens. It's such an amazing reward to grow your own food. And you guys get to see gardens at probably all different stages in your travels.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your kind words. And I really do love growing vegetables and then teaching people all over the world to do the same. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. And this is the thing, your book's actually helping us because we do take care of people's gardens. That's part of it. As pet sitters, you're taking care of people's homes, gardens.
Pets.
And I know we're doing a sit in a month or about a month. And the lady we're sitting for, she really knows gardening. She has a garden blog, but she's putting in all her raised beds right now. And I know she's listening.
Yes.
Oh, great. Well, good timing for the book to come out. Then you'll have all kinds of tips.
I know she's listening, and she's got raised beds in there. And I'm like, good, you got your book. So while she's overseas, so we don't have to bug her every 5 seconds, we got your book to help us guide us through this. And, I love the fact that it's not just the vegetables in there, but you also talk about pollinator gardens. And I really want to stress that is so important right now, not only for the environment and that we take care of our beneficial insects and pollinators like hummingbirds and butterflies and all those beauties, but is that one of the keys to being successful in the garden is having that ecosystem and building that?
Absolutely. What a lot of people do is they tend to plant in entirely separate areas for their flowers, which is great too. It makes a beautiful edging along your yard or whatever. But I really love to also incorporate the flowers right in with the vegetables because you want to bring the pollinators right in where your vegetables are. Not only does it provide a really beautiful, habitat and environment for them, but it'll cut down on some of the predatory bugs and bring the pollinators in to pollinate your vegetables. So you're much more likely to grow, really nice harvest when you do that. And it's just so enjoyable to see the little splashes of color. You guys mentioned with my nasturtiums, also those sunflowers, to see those splashes of color all through your garden, because gardening is all about, just relaxing, enjoying the process, your mental health as well. And so that the color just kind of brings it all to life. And the pollinators absolutely love it too.
Yeah, we found when we were gardening in the desert that marigolds really helped cut down the pests that you didn't want. They were really, really very, very beneficial to us to have. I would say you would surround your veggies with a row of marigolds, and you still had butterflies and bees, but you didn't get the ones that ate
Yeah.
your veggies.
They don't like the scent of the marigolds, and the marigolds are so hardy. I mean, you trim off the
Yeah.
top, they
Mm.
just keep on growing. So it's like a little real workhorse in the garden. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
great
love
plant for that
marigolds.
too.
Oh, they
Mm.
smell good too. I love,
Beautiful.
they're one of my favorites, So I want to, before we get into, raised beds, I mean, because I love how you show how we can make them even using concrete blocks, which we've done. And we've even grown a square or rectangular, whatever word, squash, a cantaloupe by accident
Yes.
by using concrete blocks.
Oh,
The seed
how
got in there and
fun.
it grew and it got stuck in there, and we did manage to pull it out, believe it or not.
So we had to
Oh
And
spare.
we
my
had a
goodness.
square
How fun.
cantaloupe, and this was in the
I
desert,
know.
everyone, in
That
the
was
high
cool.
desert outside Joshua Tree National Park. When we lived out there, we had a test garden. We were doing roses and we were doing all of these vegetables, and nobody thought you could grow them, and we're like, no, it was about
Exactly.
amending our soil. And we managed to do it, and raised beds help a lot. And like you're saying, growing the flowers. But what was your journey of deciding, hey, I'm going to grow my own food, and then document it and teach us all how to do it?
Well, I had wanted to grow vegetables for a while. I actually grew up in a large family. We had a huge garden, grew vegetables. My mom canned and froze everything. But as an adult, I didn't think I had the space. Now I know what I didn't know back then. I could have grown in a small space. But when we moved into the house we're in now, that was the first thing I wanted to do, was just to dig out a corner of my yard. I wanted my family to have that homegrown tomato taste. I mean, the grocery store tomatoes, as you well know, taste like cardboard. So it was the
Yeah.
first thing, the first Mother's Day we lived in our house. That was all I asked for my kids and my husband to come outside with me and help me plant the garden. And that's exactly what we did. And that was way before we had our YouTube channel, or about a year before we had our YouTube channel. And the following spring, my husband, Jerry, who's known as Camera Guy on social media, is a videographer on the side. And he was trying to make a viral video with some of his friends. And they were each making a separate video. And then he said to me, "What are you doing? I want to make this video. I got to beat my friends out. I want it to go viral." So I said, "Well, I'm out putting compost on my herbs." He goes, "Well, I'm going to come out and film you. Just, act natural, talk about what you're doing." So that's what I did. That was our very first video. And we
Cool.
uploaded it to YouTube. And before we knew it, it was kind of an accident, but before we knew it, people started asking for more videos on seed starting. And I didn't know a ton about gardening at the time, but I dug right in. I asked for, viewers' input, and they would incorporate their suggestions into the videos. And I discovered that I really loved teaching about gardening. And Jerry really loved videoing. So it was just kind of a match made in heaven as far as the
Cool.
YouTube channel goes, and for our marriage too. But we ended up starting the channel, and then it just started growing. And then before I knew it, I had quit my part-time job I had at the time and did our business, which at that time we named CaliKim Garden and Home, full-time. So it ended up working into a full-time business for us. And now we have the online store, and I've written 2 books. So it's just grown into something we love to do. We love to do together. He still has his full-time job, but we'll shoot videos in the evenings and weekends. So we really enjoy doing it together.
This is all because you said that you've got different types of gardens listed, and one of them's a pizza garden. Now, how can you go wrong with a pizza garden?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
You absolutely can. And the themed gardens are actually a good way for people to start. Like, I always tell people, start simple. You don't have to grow the whole farm of vegetables, but start simple and then expand later. I talk about that in my first book. But start with vegetables that you really enjoy eating, whether it's a pizza garden, whether it's a small salad garden, herbs. Just start with maybe 3 to 5 vegetables, or even just 1 vegetable, and get a little bit of, success. Taste that first harvest. And as you ladies well know, before you know it, you're addicted, and you're going to expand and just keep on growing more and more. So it's definitely a process, but start simple and expand later is kind of been my motto.
I love it because, and by the way, everyone, 10 years, they're celebrating 10-year anniversary of CaliKim. This is awesome.
Oh, cool.
So congratulations on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
because you
Thank
got, and
you.
over these years, you have so much content for us to dig into. And I love the book because it's kind of like you can read the book, then go on YouTube. It's kind of like everything is there. This book really gets you started in it. And, we did a sit out in a mini farm out in North Carolina. And we're going to go there for 2 months and take care of chickens and their vegetable gardens. And so they have one side that was fenced in. It wasn't as much raised, but they did huge trellises for all these different tomatoes. And I did not know there were so many varieties of tomatoes until we got there. There were the Romas, and then there's green tomatoes. So like these green heirlooms, and now you had to know whether they were ripe. But no, they do not go red. So it's like these white, greeny, big fat tomatoes, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the South, we can have fried green tomatoes. It's cool. But
That's
they had one
right.
side, and they had beds. Like they had the wooden beds, someone had chicken mesh on them, but their soil was so good. And some, I wouldn't say they had a tub in there, but maybe that was another place we sat too. We've been doing a lot of vegetable, and you go in and you harvest, you make sure you watch for bugs. And we would if you saw a caterpillar on there, you're like, dude, you need to go the other side, pull them off kind of thing. But they had deer and, chickens, and chickens will get in there. So the
And
amount
guinea
of
fowl.
harvest, I couldn't believe what she was growing. Zucchini, eggplants. I
Incredible.
became like, I have never been that good about eating eggplant, but because I was harvesting it, like my body wanted to just eat it right there on the
Well, it tastes totally
Oh,
different from a
yeah.
garden. Like
Yeah.
And
tomatoes.
that's the amazing thing about raised beds is
Yeah.
vegetables do better in
Yeah.
raised beds because you're filling them. Not only does it give you, a lot easier accessibility, it's much easier on your back and your knees, but you're growing, like you mentioned, on a trellis. You can see to harvest better, but you're filling your raised beds with soil that's nutrient dense. So for example, in my garden, my natural soil is very clay soil and rocky.
Yeah.
So when you're putting a raised bed on top of your soil, and you can put a raised bed on any surface that you want, cement, grass, on top of your current soil, then you're filling it with soil that you can either custom make yourself or, get it like in bulk from a landscape company or something of that kind. And my book has different recipes and different things you can fill your beds with, but you're like custom making your soil, and it's nutrient dense. It's nice and loose and fluffy, which is a really good component of soil. So you're creating a really natural environment where your plants are going to thrive. So you're going to see those big harvests, like you mentioned, with all the tomatoes and eggplant and squash, and your garden is just going to be a lot more productive. So that's a huge, huge benefit.
That's a big deal because from what we've done, just all the interviews over the years of nutrition and what to eat. I mean, even going to stores and to get vegetables, if you got a farmer's market, that's great, or, a community ag, that's great. However, when you go to a store, half of the time, if it's organic, it's all prepackaged. And I'm sitting there thinking, how are these vegetables even breathing? When I was on the farm harvesting the eggplant and tomatoes, she was like, you're not putting it in plastic. You had to lay it all out. So some was in fridges, like peppers. I had to learn about letting peppers turn colors and letting them dry and all these cool, but it was easy stuff, right? It's really easy. I just want to tell people this is easy. But it was easy compared to like if you go to a store, they're packaged, they're sweating. And if you put them in your refrigerator in that plastic, you might as well say goodbye to your vegetables in like a day or two. It's not good. But the soil that these vegetables are grown on, and we've done interviews even with some of the really big organic companies, which we all want organic, right? We want to have the best food. But they're even saying these bigger companies that are doing organics, even because if they're really big, that their soil sucks, basically. It's going to be, even though it's organically grown, the bigger the farm, the worse your soil is going to be. And so the nutrition of these organic vegetables is not going to be what it's like if you get it from a small organic farm or something that you grow in your backyard because of the soil and the nutrients we get from it. Yeah,
absolutely. The soil is so important. I mean, it's really going to be your biggest investment when it comes to raised bed gardening. And just backing up just a little bit, most farms too pick their vegetables before they're ripe. And so
Mhm.
that's why you're not getting the flavor. They have to
Right.
pick them early in order to
Mhm.
ship them to the markets and that type of thing.
Mhm.
But back to the soil that's really a critical component to growing. And it's really just all in the soil. So soil should be like living, breathing, healthy soil. It should have good aeration and airflow so that the roots aren't getting like bogged down by getting like way too wet. But it also needs to have good water retention to keep the nutrients and the water right around the roots. So when your
Mhm.
roots are happy, when your soil is healthy, your roots are happy, your vegetables are naturally going to respond and, just be healthy, happy vegetables. And you're going to see those harvests, like you were just mentioning, of all the amazingly tasty, delicious vegetables. So yeah,
Mm.
definitely soil is very, very critical. And like I mentioned a little earlier in my book, or a little earlier, is that it can be the biggest expense, but there's definitely ways that you can do it on the cheap. And I mentioned in my book 3 or 4 different recipes and different ways to fill your beds, different soil recipes that is, and different ways to fill your beds so that you can really cut down on the amount of soil that you're using and keep it really budget friendly. Because these days, let's face it, the cost of everything is going up.
Yeah.
And we want a
Mhm.
garden to help us, really cut back on our grocery bills because food is just going through the ceiling.
Mhm.
And there's lots and lots of different ways that you can do this in a quick, simple, inexpensive way. And I share a lot of those in my book too.
And
Yeah.
there's a really good benefit to gardening with children because I mean, I know as a kid, I just flatly, I'm done. I'm not eating vegetables. I'm over it. They taste bad because my mother just served canned vegetables, and I think the worst thing ever invented on earth is canned spinach. It is disgusting.
Oh,
It's
yes.
disgusting. Just take it off the shelves. Really.
I agree.
And it's so much easier to grow spinach, and it's a whole different taste. You can't even equate spinach that you can put in a salad or that you can lightly saute with some garlic yourself to canned spinach. I'm sorry, people, just stop it.
Oh, no, I agree. The flavor is just, you can't compare it to anything like you buy in the grocery store. And like you mentioned, kids, people say
Yeah,
they don't like vegetables, but when they grow them
exactly.
themselves, not only are they planting it, they're nurturing the seed, they're going through the
Mhm.
whole process. They're very proud. I mean, they're so proud when it comes to that day where you can harvest it. And then, of course, they want to eat it. So it's a real natural way to get kids to really dig
Exactly.
in. And Lisa, even like you mentioned, like you hadn't had eggplant damage before, but when you grew it and harvested it, you want to
You
eat
just
it. I mean,
wanted
it's a
it.
beautiful vegetable and you
Mhm.
want it. Yeah. So it's a great way to get more healthy nutrition into our kids' bodies and into our own bodies too. And plus, it's
Yeah.
just so darn
Yeah.
fun to be out there in the garden, get your hands in the dirt.
It
Yeah, it's
is
fun.
fun and get out there. I mean, it's pretty, right? You're saying about that. It's like, it's just so pretty in your backyard, but the ease of the raised beds. And I want to talk about the ones that, how to choose that because we have had some interesting times with that. And I think that's something, you've got to look at budget. Like you're saying, the soil is the most cost, that's what's going to cost you. And you can go from seed or you can get transplants, all that kind of stuff. But, there's
Right.
something beautiful about raised beds. It creates a way for kids to kind of almost have their own bed. And, I'm growing tomatoes. This is my thing. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's the pizza garden that gets kids
Mhm.
involved and it's something easy. But it's also a way, I mean, obviously someone has to build them for someone that may be disabled, but this could
Mhm.
be a way for people that were gardeners at one point and love gardening, or maybe have never gardened before, but it gives a way to garden depending on how you do the raised beds and everything. But you could get someone to build everything for you and then be the maintainer. You know what I mean? So I look at it, this is
Absolutely.
something for all ages that is really
It
cool.
absolutely is. And the beauty about raised beds is, say you have a person that's never gardened before, which I do a lot with first time gardeners. That's kind of my love, is just seeing people get excited about it for the first time.
Mhm.
But raised beds make it much easier for someone to start and much less intimidating because it's a structure that you're placing somewhere in your outdoor space. You're filling it with soil. You can do a DIY bed. I have plans for how to build DIY beds in my book as well. Simple designs that just about anybody can build. Or you can get like a pop-up fabric bed, which is very easy to fill with soil, and you've got an immediate garden. But it just makes it so much less intimidating than digging out a big section of your backyard because you can
Mhm.
go from bare ground to a food garden in like no time flat with raised beds. So it just makes it really easy for people to get started. And that's what I'm all about, is just getting the information out there in people's hands so they're not intimidated and they can just dig right in and have the experience and the joy of growing their own food for themselves. There's just nothing like that feeling. It's just the best.
I agree. Now, getting the started of these raised beds, I'm sorry, but I really, really love the concrete blocks, because that's something, it's actually really cost effective, right? And you can get them even secondhand. And it's something you just need to have manpower, and it's good for your muscles. If you want to lift weights, this is a good way. But and you put, talking about cardboard earlier, here's a good way of recycling cardboard. You put it at the bottom. So why are you doing the cardboard at the bottom?
Yeah.
What's the importance of that?
I like to do that to smother like anything that might be underneath your raised bed. If you're setting your concrete blocks or your raised bed, whatever type of a raised bed you're building, on like a grassy area or a weed area, it just kind of provides a weed barrier. And you lay that down there, and over time, those weeds, they're going to try and push through, but over time they're going to die. And then the cardboard eventually will decompose underneath your raised bed and just add organic matter to your soil. So it's just a kind of a really cheap, inexpensive way to do a weed barrier, so things aren't, crazily growing up through your soil and into your vegetables. Pretty simple little trick. I just save all my Amazon boxes, and then,
Yeah, exactly.
Really well. But
listen, everybody's got Amazon.
Because
it's
overflowing, But the concrete raised beds are so nice because it doesn't require any hammers, nails, saws, any lumber. They're very inexpensive. And then you have all these little spaces because the blocks are hollow, where you can put little flowers, little herbs. It just kind of adds a little whimsy touch. You can even paint them if you want to.
Right.
Stack them a couple blocks high. And I've got a design for it in my book. And the kids, can make their own special little bed out of it and paint their names on it. So it's just kind of a fun little thing to add to your garden, and makes it very, very quick. And like you said, it's a good workout too.
Yeah. Now, we've done some raised beds before, and we did this one, but it was like a plasticky fabric kind of thing. And I don't think we did it in the right place. And you do fabric, but it seems like the fabric you're using has aeration. And we were living in, the home had the backyard. It was out in the desert in Tucson, and the backyard. So we thought, oh, this is cool. We could just do the raised bed in this thing. And the raised bed is the package that we were using. The product it's not a bad product. It turned out that we didn't have enough aeration for what the sweat that was coming out of this.
Well, because it was very hot there.
Bed. And I wonder about people with their backyards. You have those walls. Everybody has those concrete walls. You know what I mean? And so I wonder about aeration. Is there a better raised bed? I mean, is wood easier? I don't know. Maybe it was just the fabric they used with this kit that we did. It just seemed that I don't know. We didn't have that much aeration in the yard. I mean, is there?
Okay. You definitely do need, that's one great thing about raised beds, is that they do provide drainage for your plants. Now, I'm not familiar with the one that you're speaking of, but maybe it didn't have sufficient drainage in the bottom, which is pretty key, because once your plants get waterlogged, the roots are going to rot. They're just not able to take up the nutrients that they need, and you're just going to see them kind of look sickly and yellow and just really not have a lot of growth and be stunted.
It didn't have any drainage. None.
It was
absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of raised beds, is that they provide that natural drainage, even more than like an in-ground garden, because, like I mentioned, my soil is clay, which doesn't drain well. So I'm constantly having to mix things into my in-ground gardens. But the raised beds, because you're filling them with your own special soil, or a really good soil mix, they're going to drain well, your plants are going to do well, and you'll have a lot of veggies for your table, which is why we're doing this, right?
Yeah. And you can grow flowers that you can eat too, because you can eat nasturtiums. They're so beautiful. That is so fun. One thing in your book I really want to bring up, and I think it's funny because it could not be funny. You talk about finding out about where the lines are in your garden before you start digging anything anywhere. You should call and find out, because that could be a really rude awakening, right? It's like, oopsie. That's if you have an older house, you could hit the sewage. I mean,
You could hit the gas
Oh yeah,
pipe,
no, you
the
don't want
gas
that.
line.
We definitely don't want that. Yeah, that's always important. So, you call before you dig. I mean, that's a good motto to kind of live by. And then just enjoy the space that you have. The thing that's great that I love about raised beds is you do not have to have a huge yard. I mean, a lot of people think that I don't have a yard, I don't have, a big, huge place to grow, but you can put raised beds on a balcony,
Yeah.
a patio, a deck. You can customize the size to, whatever space you have. So, I have several different designs in my book. The ideal size really is a 4x8 or a 4x4, 4x8, but you can customize it to whatever space you have. And the reason why you only want them about 4 feet across is 2 feet is about how long your arm is. So that means from either side, you can reach your vegetables to tend to them.
Yeah.
So if you had a huge 8x8 foot raised bed, it'd be really hard to get into the middle. And then you wouldn't be really utilizing your space that well. But you can build them and customize them or purchase them, if you prefer to do a prefab bed to the space that you have, which makes it easy for anyone, absolutely anyone, to grow on raised beds.
Yeah, you've got so many designs in the book and you really stress the point of start simple. Do something, don't go for the most expensive, most elaborate thing first. Do something,
Absolutely.
cost effective and easy to start to get your feet wet, literally. Get your hands dirty.
Absolutely.
And listen, CaliKim gets out there with the drill. And so you're empowering women to get their the belts on. Seriously, we shouldn't have to wait. I mean, come on. Don't be scared of the drill. The drill is your friend.
No, absolutely. And you know what? Jerry and I are not construction people in any sense of the word. But when you get in there and just dig in there and do it, you figure it out. And now I've gotten to the point where, I'm pretty decent with the drill. I'm still not an expert, but I do enjoy using the power tools at this point. 10 years ago, I kind of had to get used to it. But yeah, get in there, dig in, don't be intimidated. The designs that I have in my book are ones that anyone can do. It might take you a little bit of time, but anyone can do it. And it's going to save you a bundle of money. And it's really fun to look at a raised bed that you built and then you fill with vegetables and you say, you know what? I did this. It's great.
Very cool.
You just feel so proud of yourself.
I want to put a raised bed in the back of the car.
Oh yeah, Nancy, here we go. It's okay. It's okay. I know. We're always leaving, when we leave the pet sits that we do, we always leave people plants or something. It's always like, a little lavender might go well here. It's a thing.
Oh,
and the herbs, you think about when you go to a store and you want to buy organic basil, right? Just to put on your pizza that night. Look how much money it costs. And it's like a basil plant grows like basil will grow crazy for you.
They can take
just
over.
Put it in the right place. And it smells good. It really, it's like these things that are so expensive, just doing this outside. And I think you talked about this even before we started recording is the therapeutic qualities of growing your own food and having that, we talk about meditation being good for us, right? And how many people, raise your hands now, how many of us try to meditate and every thing comes in your brain, to-do list, item starts going through your brain and you actually freak out more. Meditation is good and there's ways, but gardening, I think, is a form of meditation. It really is.
And it absolutely is. It gives you a productive activity to do. It's very rewarding. You can shut off your social media, your computers, listen to podcasts if you want to, or music. But more often than not, I like to just go out and hear the birds. Look around for any life that's the lizards crawling around. We have lots of lizards here in California. And just see what you see and listen to the sounds of nature and then get your hands in the soil. You just kind of feel like you've had a long day or stressful day. You just kind of feel the cares and the stress kind of melts away. And then you get to wander around and pick some herbs or vegetables. And then it's such a great feeling when you get to prepare a meal for your family or give some to family or friends or your neighbors. My neighbor has a garden too, and we're always trading back and forth vegetables. So it's really fun to do that. And have that common bond. I think gardeners all over the world have that common bond, and they're the friendliest people ever. I'm telling you, they really are.
I want everyone to have vegetable garden in their front yard. Like I do.
That would be fun.
You can feed people as they drive by. It's like, I think, It's a cool thing, right now spring has started, right? And so when it
Yes.
comes to what you can
Happy
grow, because I know
spring.
you're big on
Mm.
seeds and saving seeds, and that's a cool thing. Getting, the seed,
Mm.
seeing the whole process, and especially getting ones that are clean. Um, in other words, not
Right.
pesticide up, right? And this is the thing, when you keep
Mm-hmm.
it small and manageable, you can manage, what's going on. And every day when you have a garden like this, you go outside, what's blooming, what's going on. And you're not
Mhm.
going to have as much
Yeah.
pest issues when you're out there in it all the time. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like you become part of the ecosystem of like, don't you chew that. You
Absolutely.
can have this part, but not that. But you're right. But,
Right.
but
You're stepping on it
getting
all the time.
you have a great thing about succession planning, when, what, who goes, who's friends with who, and you're like, who can you put in the same, jacuzzi kind of thing. In the raised bed,
Right.
it's like who are friends and who are not. But um right now it's spring. What if we haven't done, the seedlings in winter? I mean, can we start by seeds now, or, does it depend on where you are in the country? What would you say to get started for
It does.
people?
It does depend on where you are in the country. I love starting by seed because number one, it saves a ton of money, which
Mhm.
again, we're all interested in doing these days. Number two, though, and I think this is such a cool thing, is there's so many more varieties that you can grow when you start the seeds yourself. I mean, you're kind of limited if you go from transplants to whatever's at the garden center, but definitely
Right.
still a good way to do it if you're short on
Mm.
time. But definitely now, it really does depend on where you live. Here in California, we're getting a lot of our warm weather vegetables out probably in March. But typically, you want to start from seed indoors to save yourself some time to grow your own transplants about 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. So, a lot of people that in the northern areas, like you mentioned, you're in Washington. I don't know what kind of frost they get there, but like I know I have a friend in Idaho, and his last frost date is not until probably the end of May. So
Mhm.
right about
Yep.
now is a really good time for him to get his seeds started indoors, grow them indoors in a protected environment, and then come the last frost date, he's got transplants that are ready to roll to put out in the garden. So he saved himself money, saved himself time, and also been able to grow a lot of different varieties of vegetables of different colors, different shapes and sizes. And it just makes gardening so much fun because you're nurturing that little baby plant from seed all the way to harvest. So you really have just such a proud, satisfying feeling from doing that. So I really
Mhm.
encourage
I agree.
everyone to give it a try.
It's exactly,
And actually, my
you're right.
first book, Organic Gardening for Everyone, details that whole process out of how to start from seed and then do the
Mhm.
transition to the outdoors and get them planted out. So that's
Yeah,
a
and you
good
make it.
topic, or a good book if someone needs
Yeah,
that.
you make stuff look so easy,
Mm.
because it's just in here step by
Well,
step. You don't have to be overwhelmed.
yeah.
You just do it
You
step by
don't. And
step.
you just want to, the main thing is you take it slow, start
Mhm.
simple, step
Yeah.
by step, and enjoy the process. We're all going to make mistakes in the garden, but there's no failures in gardening. You're having a good time. It's all part of the learning process.
I
Yep.
love this. I'm
Mhm.
excited. Your book is going to really help us because I know, so many people are gardening, and I know our listeners are going to love this, because I know a lot of people are doing it now. They're like, you know what, prices are going up, and
Mhm.
and I
Oh,
also want
yeah.
to say it's about keeping a lighter footprint. Look what's going on with climate change or global warming, whichever you prefer to say. It's a real
Right.
deal, and the one thing we can do is grow our food close to our home and know that it's organic and clean. And by
Right.
having a pollinator garden, you're doing something beneficial, literally, for the beneficial insects that they need it. And
Right.
so do you. You need them, and your garden needs them. And so we're also creating living spaces in our communities, because the less we garden and leave things vacant, and maybe the soil needs redone, and this is a really easy way to do it, the more we have these dead zones, and then butterflies and hummingbirds and all those little wonderful birds we like to hear have no place to go. So this is like creating living
Right.
spaces across the country. So I'm just saying, on the, these tiny footprint things we think about, the more we do this, the bigger the impact. And it just really is right outside your door, even if you're in an apartment or a
Absolutely. And we
condo.
can absolutely. Apartment gardening is getting huge. There's tons of ways to garden in a small space, whether you use containers or raised beds. I just want to encourage everyone to get out there and give it a try. Start simple with something that you can maintain. and don't get, so that way you don't get overwhelmed and can continue gardening year after year. And I always tell people to watch out because it is addicting. So before you know it, you're going to be expanding, and you just might have that front yard garden that you were talking about too.
I know. See, I know. I just think that would be so cool. It's like, welcome to my onion patch. Look at the flowers. They're so beautiful. Onions and garlic and potatoes have the most beautiful flowers. Really,
They
it's
are
just
lovely.
Yeah, we think about flower gardens,
And the
and I'm like,
pollinators love them too. I absolutely love them, the pollinators.
see, exactly. Vegetable gardens have
That's right.
flowers. We got to not forget that, and they're
They
really,
do.
really pretty. So it's cool. Thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
us, everyone. CaliKim, and again, her first book, Organic Gardening for Everyone. Her latest book that's out now too is The First Time Gardener, Raised Bed Gardening. Both are out now through Cool Springs Press. And you can go to CaliKimGardenandHome.com, and of course, get it on all your favorite places to buy books. And we want to thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Margot Carrera. She is an amazing nature photographer who sent us on a quest to go to as many gardens across America. And we've done a lot of botanical gardens, pocket gardens. We have done gardens in art galleries. We've been all over, and we are in the process of putting all of them up on a map for you to see. So when you're traveling the country, I know road trips are back, right? Maybe not with gas prices. You might have to go in your garden for a bit.
Right.
But you want to go to your local garden to get some inspiration and also talk to gardeners there. When you start growing in your backyard, you're going to want to go like, hey, what's that growing over there? So she sent us on a very cool challenge, and I encourage you to go to her website, CarreraFineArtGallery.com. Real quick, CaliKim, if you could go anywhere in the world to spy somebody else's garden, whose garden would it be? Just to it's gossip. Get some gossip.
Oh, wow. I would love to go see Charles Dowding's garden in the UK.
Ooh.
And Claus Dalby, I think he's in the UK as well. And I also have tropical gardens where we love to go to Hawaii, and they have some amazing tropical and also vegetable gardens in Hawaii. So I think you guys have an awesome job. You get to travel and see all these beautiful gardens. What a joy to be able to do what you love. And that's what I love doing what I do too. I'm very passionate about it.
Thank you for mentioning Klaus, because he's going to be on our show on April 14th, everyone. So listen to Garden Gossip then.
Oh,
well done.
I'll be
get 10
listening.
points.
I'll be listening.
10 points for that. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, I'm going to give a shout out to your website where you can connect with the books. Also, go in her garden store too. And she's got a coloring book too. You got a coloring book.
That's so cool.
We love coloring books.
It's kind of fun.
It is cool.
It's kind of fun. And I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a joy to share about raised beds. And I want to encourage everybody, now that it's spring, get out there, grow yourself some veggies, and have a ton of fun along the way.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Everyone,
thanks for having me on.
CaliKimGardenandHome.com. Thanks so much.